Hello Wastelanders and Vault Dwellers, and welcome back to another video on my channel. I'm your host Tupper, the Fallout Guy, your guide to all things Fallout. Before we dive into today's video, I'd like to take a moment to wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day. Now, here's a question for you. Have you ever wondered how the Irish, who've been part of our world for centuries, fit into the Fallout universe? How does St. Patrick's Day survive in a world where everything's broken and the old traditions seem to have been wiped away? Well, stick around, because for the next 40 minutes we're going to deep dive into the Wasteland's Irish roots. We're going to uncover if there's any real Irish pride left, or if it's just another relic of a time long forgotten. Before the Great War, the Irish were no strangers to hardship. Generations of immigrants fought for their place in America, and their culture thrived, especially in the vibrant celebrations of St. Patrick's Day. But when the bombs dropped, most of that world was lost. Or was it? So, pull up a chair, Wastelanders, grab a drink, maybe a green one if you've got it, and stay tuned as we explore a forgotten part of Fallout's deep history. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. In the Wasteland, some people worship old world tech, some worship cats, others worship radiation, and some worship things with far too many legs. Our first stop takes us to a place where blue-collar, hard-working Irish Americans fit the bill. The Irish Pride Industries shipyard, located in East Boston. This pre-war thriving industrial shipyard has Irish pride right in the name, clearly tying it to Irish heritage. Before the war, the shipyard likely built and repaired vessels, possibly run by Irish American workers. Now just another skeleton in the Commonwealth's graveyard. You might have passed by the Irish Pride Industries shipyard without thinking much of it, a rusted out wreck of a dockyard filled with radiation and of course Mirelurks. Years later it was a sanctuary. At least that's what Rory Rigwell wanted it to be. Rory was a man on a mission, a self-proclaimed Mirelurk whisperer, who believed these mutated armor-plated nightmares weren't killers, just misunderstood. And so, in one of the boldest, most baffling experiments in the Wasteland, he set out to prove that Mirelurks could be tamed. What followed was a story of obsession, tragedy, and one man's dream of turning a radioactive death trap into a dry dock. Sanctuary, with a jury-rigged announcement system that played messages meant to soothe and encourage his beloved Mirelurks. Instead of the usual warnings or security alerts, Rory's broadcasts filled the air with a strange mix of calming affirmations, bizarre pep talks, and gentle reassurances, all directed at the shelled horrors lurking beneath the docks.
Grow up gentle and giant, sweet murkies.
These weren't just random musings. Rory had a method to his madness. He believed that if he could continuously expose the Mirelurks to only positive messages, he could condition them into becoming non-violent. He would speak to them as if they were his children, praising them, assuring them they were loved, and encouraging them to be kind. It was, in theory, a noble idea. In practice, a death wish. Day after day, Rory would walk among the docks, speaking softly to the young Mirelurks, whom he affectionately called his little Murkies. He would feed them, care for them, and document their behaviors. To any outsider, it must have seemed like sheer madness. Rory Rigwell thought he had it all figured out, taming Mirelurks, turning them into his own personal family pets like a dog. He called them Rory's little Murkies, but in the end, they murked a little too hard. And now, Rory's just another forgotten name in the Wasteland. Here's where it all ended. The ship's belly, where Rory stored his treasures. Looks like he was trying to stash something one last time. But his little Murkies had other plans. One moment he was their master. The next, he was dinner. If the rotting corpse of Rory Rigwell weren't proof enough, the smell sure is. A man who thought he could tame the wild, reduced to just another pile of waste. Rory Rigwell found in a pile of Mirelurk shit. Guess they left him the only respect a predator gives its prey, digestion. So let this be a lesson, Wastelanders. Train a beast all you want, but the second it stops seeing you as its master, you're just another meal. As we look toward the future of Fallout, one question lingers. Will we ever see a true Irish faction? A group of survivors who carry the legacy of Irish pride forward? A community that not only survives but thrives, keeping the traditions alive in a world where history's so easily forgotten. In a game filled with factions like the Brotherhood of Steel and the New California Republic, wouldn't it be something to see an Irish Wasteland syndicate? A group of survivors bound by loyalty, heritage, and a good old-fashioned stubborn refusal to give up. From the Bison Steve Hotel in the Mojave to the Rusty Pick in Appalachia, we're hunting down every last drop of Irish history in the Fallout universe. Whether it's the Irish Pride, Industries Shipyard, the legendary Moriarty Saloon, or a seedy old pub lost to time, we're cracking open the lore like a bottle of fine pre-war whiskey. Luck. Some say it's just a myth, a gambler's excuse for why the dice fall the way they do. But the Irish, they know better. From four-leaf clovers to St. Patrick's Day pints, luck is woven into their history, their culture, and maybe even the wasteland itself. Welcome to the Four Leaf Fishpacking Plant, a factory that should have had fortune on its side, but instead found nothing but bad luck. If there's one thing Boston has always had, it's a deep Irish heritage. The city was built by hard-working immigrants who came looking for opportunity, but often found themselves fighting against the odds. Many of them settled in places like Southie, opening bars, businesses, and factories, just like the Four Leaf Fishpacking Plant. With a name like Four Leaf, you'd think this place had the kind of luck the Irish are famous for. The four-leaf clover has long been a symbol of good fortune, something rare and special. But just like the city's Irish immigrants, this plant didn't get any favors. Instead of luck, it found nothing but corruption, debt, and decay. Before the war, this factory was already on its last legs. Between mismanagement and a nasty pollution scandal, turns out dumping toxic sludge from General Atomics into the harbor wasn't great for business. Four Leaf was sinking. Bankruptcy loomed over them like a storm cloud. And then, the bombs fell. Whatever luck they had left ran out in an instant. Now, instead of fish, this factory processes bodies. Feral ghouls roam the floors, clinging to whatever memories are left of their former lives. But they're not the only ones who found a use for this place. In a city built by Irish immigrants, many came chasing the dream of prosperity. Some struck gold. Others, they found their fortune in more illicit ways, and that's exactly what happened here. Hidden above the main entrance is a secret straight out of a Prohibition-era bootlegging story, a full-scale drug lab run by the infamous Moriarty, Good Neighbor's resident chem kingpin. Smuggling, backdoor deals, and running operations from hidden locations. Now, that's a tradition Boston knows well. Moriarty's lab isn't making whiskey or Guinness. They're cooking up jet, buff-out, and mentats by the crate, supplying Good Neighbor's chem addicts. It's the kind of underground operation that would have fit right in during Boston's Irish mob era, except now the only lawmen around are armed to the teeth and looking for a cut. For those willing to brave the dangers inside, Four Leaf still has some luck to offer. Vault-Tec lunchboxes, Nuka-Cola Quantum, and even a stash of fusion cores hidden in old generators. Maybe the plant wasn't so cursed after all. So, what do we make of the Four Leaf Fishpacking Plant? A symbol of Irish luck. Or a reminder that sometimes even the best hands go bust. Maybe it's fitting that it ended up this way. After all, Boston's Irish history is full of fighters, survivors, and those who made their own luck. And in the wasteland, isn't that what it's all about? Luck. Some believe it's just superstition, while others swear it's the only thing keeping them alive in the wasteland. But for those willing to brave the elements, there's a hidden relic out there, a token of fortune lost to time, waiting to be claimed. And it's sitting on a half-sunken ship off the coast of Spectacle Island. Spectacle Island isn't your typical paradise, abandoned, storm-ridden, and infested with Mirelurks. It's the last place anyone would expect to find something as valuable as... But as the saying goes, fortune favors the bold. If you make it past the horrors lurking on the island, you'll find a rusted, forgotten vessel leaning into the sea. Climb aboard, make your way to the second level. There it is, hidden in plain sight, resting inside an open locker as if waiting for the right survivor to claim it. This tiny pre-war collectible, seemingly insignificant, holds real power. Picking it up permanently boosts your luck by 1. And in a world where every second counts, that single point could mean the difference between finding a rare legendary weapon or getting your head blown off by a super mutant with a missile launcher. With luck on your side, you'll land critical hits more often, find better loot, and even sway conversations in your favor. It's not just a bobblehead, it's a charm, a symbol of how even in the darkest places fortune can still smile upon those who seek it. So the question is, do you believe in luck, or are you willing to test fate yourself? Because if you are, Spectacle Island awaits, and so does your fortune. Boston, a city steeped in history, rebellion, and a fair bit of drinking, but when it comes to pre-war watering holes, few places were as legendary as the Shamrock Tap House, an old-world Irish pub aesthetic even in its ruined state, with references to Boston's real-world drinking scene. That stood the test of time until the bombs dropped and turned it into a raider den. Established in 1787, the Shamrock Tap House was one of Boston's oldest Irish pubs, a place where patriots, workers, and misfits alike gathered over a pint of stout and a shot of whiskey. Some even claimed that Paul Revere himself had once raised a glass here. Whether that's true or just barroom legend, well, that's up to you to decide. Before the Great War, it prided itself on authentic Irish food and an impressive drink selection, importing liquor from across Europe and keeping Boston's working class well lubricated with Gwinnett Pale Ale, Southeast Stout, and Bunker Hill Brew. But what really made the Shamrock Tap House stand out was one man's dream of creating the ultimate bartender, one that could never spill a drink, never call in sick, and always pour the perfect pint. Meet Drinkin' Buddy, a protectron turned bartender built by the pub's last owner, Patrick Merriweather. With funding from Hotel Rexford's Jack West, Buddy was meant to be Boston's next great innovation, a fully automated brewer, bottler, and bartender all in one. He was finished just before the bombs fell, but never got the chance to serve his first drink. For over 200 years, he sat in the basement, waiting. But even in the post-apocalypse, you can still wake him up, let him fulfill his purpose, and maybe even take him on the road, because who wouldn't want a mobile bartender in the wasteland? Of course, the Shamrock Tap House isn't the lively pub it used to be. Now, it's home to a gang of raiders led by a man named Gaff, though he's really just a pawn in the power struggle between Boston's rival gangs. Whether you come looking for a fight or just want to grab a drink, expect some resistance when you step through these doors. You won't just be dealing with raiders, either. Mole rats, turrets, and even a stray super mutant might make things interesting, but if you can fight your way through, there's plenty of loot to be found. Chems, booze, and even a mini nuke hiding in a pool table pocket upstairs, because nothing says Happy St. Patrick's Day like a nuclear explosion waiting to happen. If you got a sharp eye, you might stumble upon a hidden piece of Boston's brewing history. Tucked beneath the collapsed bar is a Gwinnett Lager recipe, a relic of pre-war craftsmanship, now just another lost treasure of the wasteland. Or maybe you're the type who prefers a good read with their drink. Upstairs, a Vault-Tec lunchbox, a copy of Total Hack, and an expert lock safe are waiting for those with a steady hand and a bit of patience. So whether you're here for the loot, the history, or just to raise a glass to Boston's Irish roots, the Shamrock Tap House is worth a visit. It may not be the lively pub it once was, but in a world where luck can mean the difference between life and death, maybe, just maybe, there's still a bit of the Irish spirit left in these walls. If there's one thing the Irish are known for, besides luck and good stories, it's beer. And in pre-war Boston, no brewery was bigger than Gwinnett. Once a powerhouse of local brewing, this place churned out some of the Commonwealth's finest stouts and ales, keeping bars like the Shamrock Tap House stocked with Southeast Stout and Bunker Hill Brew. But today, the only thing brewing inside these walls is trouble. Boston and beer go way back, and you can thank the Irish for that. When they settled in places like Southie, they brought their love of brewing with them. Pubs and breweries flourished, and St. Patrick's Day wasn't just a holiday, it was an all-out beer-fueled celebration. Gwinnett Brewery was part of that tradition, filling mugs across the city. But now it's not workers running the place, it's super mutants, and they're not exactly the friendly pub-going type. Some folks drink to celebrate, others drink to forget, but the super mutants held up in Gwinnett Brewery, they drink to stay alive. This isn't just their hideout, it's their supply chain. The beer still flows, but not for the love of brewing. It's all about power, trade, and control. And if you're looking to take a sip of what's left, you'll have to fight for it. These super mutants won't just hand over their stash, but hey, nothing worth having ever comes easy, right? Even in a super mutant-infested war zone, there are rewards for those willing to look. Behind some plywood in the reception area, a hidden Nuka-Cola Quantum, because let's be real, sometimes even the best stout can't compete with a glowing radioactive soda. And if you don't mind a little urban acrobatics, there's something waiting for you on the northwest catwalk. You'll have to climb some pipes to get there, but hey, good things come to those who work for it. But if you really want a taste of the past, you'll need to get your hands on the Gwinnett Stout recipe. It's locked behind a barred door on the roof, but there's a trick. You can shoot through the window to open it. Just a little puzzle left behind by some long-dead brewer waiting for the right person to find it. This isn't just any old beer recipe. It's a pre-war relic, one of the last remaining pieces of a lost brewing tradition. A reminder that even after the world burns, some things, like a good stout, are worth preserving. For generations, Boston's Irish community built their own luck. One pint, one pub, and one story at a time. Gwinnett Brewery might be in ruins, but its spirit, that still lingers. So whether you're raising a glass at the Shamrock Tap House or taking down raiders in an old brewery, one thing's for sure. In the Wasteland, beer and survival go hand in hand. In the Wasteland, survival isn't a privilege, it's a fight, and no one embodies that struggle more than Kate. A woman hardened by abuse, betrayal, and addiction, her story is one of pain and perseverance, but within that darkness there's something else, something raw, something real. Redemption. This is the story of Kate, Fallout 4's most tragic yet inspiring companion. Kate was born into misery. Raised in an abusive Irish family in the ruins of post-apocalyptic Boston, she never knew kindness, never felt safety. Her parents, addicts and drunks, saw her as nothing more than a burden, a mouth to feed in a world where resources were already scarce. And so, on her 18th birthday, they made a decision that would scar her forever. She was sold, traded like property, a fate worse than death, forced into servitude under slavers, who cared even less for her than the family that had betrayed her. For years she endured, but Kate had something her captors didn't understand. A fire, a fury, and when the opportunity came, she seized it. The night she took her freedom back, it wasn't clean, it wasn't heroic, it was raw, desperate, and soaked in blood. But it was hers. And from that moment on, Kate swore that no one would ever own her again. She escaped, but she didn't run to freedom. She ran to the only place that would take someone as broken as her, the combat zone, a lawless pit of violence, vice, and desperation, where survival meant spilling blood for the entertainment of those who bet their last cap on your life. And Kate? She was good at it. Too good. She wasn't just fighting for sport, she was fighting to forget, to drown out the pain. And she found the only thing that numbed the memories, chems. Chems became her escape, a crutch to dull the agony of her past and the nightmare of her present. Day after day, fight after fight, her dependency grew, and soon the fire in her eyes dimmed. She wasn't fighting to survive anymore. She was just waiting for the day she wouldn't get back up. She should have died in that ring, many times over. But fate had other plans. But fate, it seems, wasn't done with her yet. When the sole survivor stormed the combat zone, taking down the raiders that had overrun the place, Kate saw something she hadn't in a long time. Hope. a chance at something more than this pit of violence and addiction, and for the first time she took it. She didn't trust easily. How could she? But step by step, fight by fight, she started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't beyond saving, that maybe she could be more than just a washed-up fighter throwing punches for a handful of caps. But there was one demon left to face. For all her strength, all her resilience, Kate was still a prisoner, this time to her own addiction. Psychojet buff out, they controlled her just as much as the slavers once did, and when she finally admitted the truth, it wasn't with defiance, it was with desperation. She wanted out, she just didn't know how. Vault 95. A place meant to cure addiction before the war, now infested with gunners. But beyond the bullets and the bloodshed, there was something else. Hope. The chance to break free. And she did. With the help of the sole survivor, Kate pushed through the pain, the withdrawal, the doubt. She took back control of her life, and for the first time, she stood not as a victim, not as a fighter, but as herself, free. Kate's story isn't one of fairy tales. It's not neat, not clean. She still has scars, still has struggles, but she's proof that no matter how deep the wounds, how painful the past, there's always a chance to start again. Ah, Moriarty's Saloon. If there's any place in the capital wasteland that could still capture the soul of an old-world Irish pub, it's here. Run by Colin Moriarty, an Irishman through and through, this bar wasn't just a place to drink, it was a place where secrets were bought, sold, and traded, like caps. Moriarty himself was a piece of work, greedy, cunning, and ruthless, but he understood survival better than most. His father fled the bombs and raised him in the waste, turning a small shack in Megaton into a den of debauchery, danger, and good old-fashioned whiskey-fueled deals. For wanderers in the wasteland, Moriarty's Saloon was often the first stop in Megaton, a place to find work, make friends, or get tangled in trouble. And if you were unlucky, you'd end up in debt to Moriarty himself, something few ever managed to crawl out of. So what do you think, Wastelanders? Does the Irish legacy deserve a bigger role in the Fallout universe? Have you ever come across hints of St. Patrick's Day in your adventures, or maybe even celebrated it in game with a good old bottle of whiskey and some bar fights? The Irish Pride Industries started as a symbol of the Irish immigrant experience in America, but in the wasteland, it became something far darker. As the world crumbled, Rigwell's vision for Irish pride didn't just survive, it adapted, shaping the future of the Irish people in the post-apocalyptic world of Fallout. The Irish pride influence can still be felt, even in the dimly lit corners of the Fallout universe. It's said that the clover symbol holds a secret, a key to something hidden by Irish pride that could change the course of the wasteland forever. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about the hidden stories of the Fallout universe, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, the wasteland is full of mysteries, and we've only just begun to scratch the surface. So what do you think, Wastelanders? Does the legacy of the Irish still linger in the wasteland? So the next time you find yourself wandering through the wasteland, stop by the Four Leaf Pub, raise a glass, or listen to the stories. And remember that even after the bombs fell, the Irish spirit lives on in the clinking of glasses, the playing of fiddles, and the pride that refuses to die. Happy St. Patrick's Day.